I'm just gonna move the toner cartridge to the front burner.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna talk about capturing leads with open houses. Has anybody done that or applied that in their business in the past or looking to do that in the future? It's one of my favorite lead sources. I prefer that to dialing, don't tell, Shipwreck Group, but that's one of my favorite lead sources. So I use open houses as a way to capture buyers and always, not always just buyers, but you have people that are looking to buy and sell at the same time. So I invest that time and energy in making the most of that time that I have on that Sunday or Saturday or Friday evening. Sometimes I do mine, so those evenings. Go through that. Wow, cross. So this is just the, complying with the TCPA, other federal state rules. Never call or text the number or contact the person if you don't have authority to do so. You should have that as a disclosure. So we're going to talk about the lead generation, growing your database. For those of classes we've had in the past, and today we're just talking about capturing. So again, just covers like the best practices, preparing and prospecting, pursuing, recapping, and daily systems to keep it the ball rolling with that kind of system. Nothing else about your business will have as big an impact on it as the number of leads that you have. Of course, leads are everything in our business. We all know that. And how everybody has their own personal way that they go about getting their leads. Again, like I said, this is my favorite way of doing it. So there's some myths that we have in the system. Let me just see. By more, maybe more. Be able to see the top of the screen. These are just beliefs that they're saying. We're dispelling limiting beliefs around having open houses. One of them is I don't have a listing to hold an open house. I don't have signs yet. And may not know the answers to questions visitors have. Open houses don't really work because most people look online and I want to feel safe. So these are very limiting beliefs. And I don't feel like any of those really work with any of the process of an open house. And we will explain why. So capturing the leads with an open house is our first step. And I have to close this because I can't see it. Let's see what the top of this. See for it. Do you want me to go grab her? That would be great. I think it's the little dots where it says more. Yeah, no, that's what I looked at.
What are you trying to do?
I just want to remove this blank bar at the top.
Floating meeting controls. Down there, and I see where it says, going down. Right there.
Oh, get it. So the benefits of open houses, they're inexpensive. They don't cost you anything. They cost you time. Gotta be willing to put in the time. It's an amazing prospecting tool. You get a high return on your investment and you're getting qualified leads. Because people that are coming into those open houses are people that are genuinely looking. They may not be looking today. They may be a long-term goal for them and they're not looking to buy or sell in 6 months, but that's still a legitimate lead for each of your business. what are some things that for you in an open house is eye-opening, or that you've realized in an open house that you feel is a moment where you're like, hey, maybe this is something I need to consider in the future moving forward? Anybody have any thoughts about that?
I will say that, open house is perfect time to use a lot of the scripts that you've been practicing.
Correct.
Especially if there's one where you do get a lot of people, and typically the ones that give you objection, because you know that everyone that goes to the open house is not really looking to buy a house.
Right, right. Good, that's good point, thanks. So best practices, we're gonna go through those. So set goals. I think it's important to be purposeful and not, don't look at the big picture, just be purposeful about what that neighborhood offers and what your strategy is gonna be. Typically, and I'll just talk from my experience, if I hold an open house and I haven't had enough listings that I can say it's on my listing. I've approached agents and said, I'd like to hold an open house for you, but I like to have a lead time. And that's part of my goal, to be purposeful. Like, I don't want to be told on a Friday, can you hold an open house for me on Sunday? Because that doesn't give me the time to do the lead generation, the door knocking, and everything that's involved in having a successful open house. So I will email an agent and say, hey, this is my strategy. This is how I hold an open house. And you can look in the MREA, Gary Keller talks about, how to hold a top level open house. And there's different levels. You don't have to go all the way to the top, but there's different levels of holding an open house. So in being purposeful, setting those goals, it's important for me to know that for me to have a successful open house for you, I need to know perhaps Monday that you want me to hold an open house for you Sunday, so that I can do my best and the most for successful open house, not only for me, but for the agent.
When you say the best and the most, what does that mean?
Well, and we'll go through those because it'll break it down step by step, but how it starts for me is typically, I will do, my first step is to do typically a flyer. So I'll go into Canva, I'll get pictures of the house from the MLS, I'll create a flyer. I'll also create a personal invitation. So that's something where I actually go door to door and I will knock on I do between 80 and 100 doors in that week. And it seems like a lot, but if you break it up, like if you do 15 or 20 a day, it's easy work. And those people that you are talking to when you're knocking those doors you may never see them in your open house, but they may be potential leads in the future that you're communicating with, saying, hey, it's an excuse to knock on the door. And I always say, it's a great excuse to be a nosy neighbor, because you can come and look at the home without being considered a nosy neighbor because it's an open house. And then they'll say, I can't make it on Sunday, but
Is that your script? What do you say to them?
that's typically, like, I don't have
I mean, you do, you may
yeah,
not have it written down.
yeah, yeah. I don't have a hardcore script that I'll talk to them about, but I just try to be, and Chris and I talked about this the other day, I just try to be sincere. And just like, hey, I'll be like, my name is Celeste, I'm from Keller Williams, Seven Hills. I'm holding an open house on 123 Main Street from 6 to 8 p.m. We have cheese and wine, or it's not necessarily always a cheese and wine, but I'd love to see you there. It's an excuse to be a nosy neighbor. And then I will give them the flyer. And then I will say, if you're interested in having a free home evaluation, I'm happy to do that. So, and you'll be amazed how people will warm up to you and have conversations with you based on that. It's important that you also time your door knocking well. So when I'm doing it, I'm not necessarily, like, if I have an open house on a Sunday, Saturdays are great days to door knock, because that's when people, especially when the weather gets nice, people are outdoors and moving around their home. Early evenings are better door knocking times than I would say in the mornings or the afternoons, because you have an opportunity to have more conversations. And to me, that's what drives, people into your ROI. It's here. So,
Do you like, you door knock and they say, oh, I can't make it on Saturday, thank you so much, do you say, oh, well, you know, if you'd like, I can put you on an email list, or do you try to get their
Always.
information?
always, so we're always trying to get, you know, and things like, our neighborhood nurturing command. Like, that's a great excuse to say, hey, like, if you can't make it, I'd love to send you some information about what's selling in this neighborhood and what you can get, what your home can sell for. So if you'd like to give me an email, I'm happy to put you on that list. Now, some people are a little bit hesitant and they don't always want to do that. But if you can get a phone number, if you can get a name, you know, if I always have a little pad with me and a notebook, so that as I'm walking away, whatever conversation I'm having with that person at the door, I'm writing down their name, their address, and if they talked about their little dog Bingo, like, because you won't remember it if you don't like make a note of it. And that's a great way to send a card. That's something Annie taught me in my early days, and it's how I have developed relationships, because even if they don't want to give you that information, you have their name, or you have, and even if you don't have their name, if they're not willing to give you their name, you have their address, and you know that you spoke to that lady about Bingo, and you can send her a card and say, hey, like, it was so great chatting with you. I hope Bingo's doing well. He was such a cutie pie. That's all you have to do. You don't have to say, I'm a real estate agent, I want to sell you home. It's just about being human. So, again, it's just, again, being, I said, being human and trying to bring people to your sphere by being genuine. And then it talks about picking the house. You know, once you've set your goals and you've picked the house that you're now going to have the open house for. It's important that you go perhaps to the MLS and see what has sold in that area in the last 3 to 6 months. So that you have a better perspective on that neighborhood. And when somebody's walking into that open house, you're the neighborhood expert. You know that 2 houses down, that house sold for 260,000, 2 months ago, and they were in a bidding war, like those are things that you could find out prior to your open house that sets you up for success. With anybody who's walking into that house, or anybody you're door knocking to. You can include that in your information. And it just shows that you are knowledgeable about what you're doing. Prepare and practice. Again, that's preparing what the neighborhood is about, what it looks like, how much has sold in that neighborhood, know the school districts, the county, the taxes, that kind of thing. Those are all bits of information that will help you. Pick the time. And different people have open houses at different times. I've seen people have open houses in the middle of the week. I typically do a 6 to 8 p.m. on a Friday evening. I always feel like when people have weekend plans, they usually plan it for a Saturday. Friday's kind of a stay-at-home night some of the time. And so I'll do a cheese and wine for a Friday evening, 6 to 8 p.m. And then I will do a Sunday. And I try to work that, like my boards are standard and they are like 1 to 3 p.m. is what I initially did. I've thought about changing that to like a 2 to 4 p.m. But you've got to make sure, it's terrible that I do this, but I work my open houses around football season too. Because if there's a game on, people are not going to come. They're going to stay home and watch the game. So you've got to try like, make sure that you have that in play.
I was like sneaking out, I know, like.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. So, and then also picking the time, I think part of picking that time is also like, when do you put your boards out? You know, your open house boards, you know, you can always put a rider up that week for open house. Of course, you want to make sure that the agent who's putting it in the MLS, that there is an open house, because that helps draw more people to it. Boards are sticky in that it's important that I like to put mine up a day or two before. But here's a tip. A lot of the cities will not allow you to have the pointer boards in on their corners or on their sidewalks. So this is also part of my strategy, is when I'm door knocking, I ask people if they mind if I put a pointer board in their yard, pointing to where the open house is, because they can't pull that up. But if you put it on the sidewalk, and I've had it happen, I've had brand new boards made, and they pulled them all up and thrown them in the trash, because there's a law in some, and not everybody enforces it, but I always think it's safer if you can do that. So I typically, like, if my open house is on a Sunday, I will have my boards typically say open house Saturday in big letters. My boards are about that big. And they'll typically say open house Saturday, 1 to 3 p.m. And I will put them up the day before. And then in that, I will also put up like balloons, or like the open house and rider put up earlier, the earliest part of that week, so basically. This just is repeating on like preparing statistics and knowing what's sold in your neighborhood looks like. And then just be safe, you know, make sure that somebody knows that you're at the open house. Have a buddy system, arrive early, park on the street so that the driveway's open for people to use. Check all the entrances and exits. And make sure your cell phone is fully charged. Turn on lights, check your local, well, COVID guidelines, I guess that doesn't exist anymore, right? And then follow the market center guidelines and checklists for open houses. So it's just important that, you know, we're following all the rules and regulations as far as like, we don't wanna leave the house at any time while we're in it. I mean, I feel like that doesn't really need to be said, but it's important that we're the guardians of that person's house. So if somebody wants, you know, they don't want people walking through with their shoes and they want booties, then that's just something you need to enforce as respect to the seller of that.
I mean, this is a random question, but like, do you have a always in your trunk open house kit? You know, like, do you have like Swiffers? What happens if you show up, even if it's an empty house, they get dusty?
Swiffer, toilet paper, a table, because a lot of times you'll go into an open house and there won't be anywhere to sit or to, you know, and I like to have like a little table at the door with a nice chair. And I put a tablecloth over it. I may put a little vase with flowers so that there's a place to display your cards and your, you know, where you can have your laptop down. I just think it looks professional, you know, as opposed to just, you know, and typically I don't like to be sitting when somebody's walking in. I'm not, you know, I want to be proactive. When you hear a car pull up, you're standing up and you're making sure that, you know, they're greeted well. You're not, you know, something I learned early, like you don't follow them through the house, you know, you typically have them, you welcome them, you let them know what you know about the house briefly and give them, you know, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those for you. And then of course, now everybody does it differently. Some people will have People sign in as they walk in. I usually do it if they leave. Because to me, there's on my open house sheet, I do an assessment of like, what do you think of the house? What do you think of price? You know, are you working with an agent? So on and so forth. So, I try not to be pushy. I think people feel like they're following you around or they're, you know, or you're overly eager. So I try to be as relaxed about that. So. Any ahas from that? Anything?
I was gonna say, particularly if you're doing a listing presentation and get signed, that should be with the cleaning materials. Because I have come across where, hey, I shouldn't have to take them off, and so particularly if someone else is listing.
Right,
And I tell all my sellers, have this because people will have accidents, because I'll see a lot on the MLS. Take off your shoes if it's
Right.
late. I'm not going to tell someone
right,
who walked in your backyard, come back in, take off their shoes.
right,
And
right.
so they should have it there. And as I don't know what size vehicles you all have, I have a kit, I have a table, I call it a barber chair.
Yeah.
That I take into these open houses.
Yeah.
I don't have room for all this stuff. And I also use one of those gigantic open house signs. And after my first one, I don't break it down, so. You're already crunched with space.
Yeah.
Right there. If you got a big SUV, God love you, you
Yeah.
have room for it. But we really are a partner with particular other listing agents that they need to meet us halfway. If you want us to do your own house, make sure the seller has that. If they don't, it becomes on
Right.
a listing agent to help us get the best out of it.
Well, and I also think that you've also, I mean, that's all very valid points. I just think that your representation of that listing agent's, you know, presence. And if there's something that you're not doing that's professional, or you're not putting your best foot forward, you know, you want somebody, if, you know, there's agents here that sell, you know, $800,000 $1 million homes, and they don't want to be bothered with open houses. You know, think about the lead generation. It's a privilege that they're giving you, that privilege to sit in their home. They could use anybody. They could use absolutely any agent they want to sit in their home. And, you know, to me, you want, and it's not just a matter of sitting in their home. It's a matter of, again, putting your best foot forward and having a report for them at the end of your open house. You know, I want you to know that I knocked, and be honest, I knocked 100 doors. We had 7 people through your open house. I usually break it down by hour. I'll say in the first hour there were no showings. This is the feedback that we got. You know, those are all things that make you appear like or make you look like the professional you're supposed to be. So. Prepare, prospect, and pursue. Here's another great Gary quote: the difference between big and really big is how you manage your time and focus. So I'm from the ADD world, and so sometimes my big is really big. And so just making, you know, shifting your focus and making it, there's a book by Jay Papasan also called The One Thing that I absolutely love. And it talks about like just managing your time and focus, and managing that one thing that you feel that you excel at or that you're good at, and being consistent about it. So prepare, prospect, and pursue. Prepare your mindset, of course. It's not gonna help if you're, you know, aggravated and you're hot and you're irritated and you're going to knock on doors because you feel like you've got to do it and your mindset is right. So it's important that your mindset is in the right place. And then practice your conversations. Yeah, it's scripts, you know. I'm not a script person because I feel like everybody talks to other people in a manner that makes them most comfortable. Some people do great with scripts. It's not my thing, but you can practice your conversations very easily in the mirror in the mornings or, you know. And then this just talks again about selecting the house. Tuesday, post online, walk the neighborhood, invite neighbors to the showing. So the sooner you're posting online for your open house, and those are places like Facebook Marketplace, it doesn't cost you anything. You can go to Instagram, you can go to your regular Facebook page, you can go like to neighborhood groups. Typically, they can, some of them are sticky and they don't like it when you're advertising, especially when it's got the Keller Williams logo, but sometimes you can work with the seller to say, are you on a neighborhood group for that that area? And would you mind posting just a personal with a picture of your house that you're having an open house that weekend? That helps. Again, post again online, installing your yard sign, which I typically do that the minute I know there's an open house. So I'll typically choose a Monday to do that, but, and then post again online, invite your database. You know, I like to bake. So sometimes I'll have like I'll have a flyer with like, come get some blueberry bread samples or some little cheesecakes or something to lure people into the open house. And then it's almost like a signature. Like now I know when I don't do as much baking. I do my cheese and wine on a Friday evening, and I do like a little charcuterie with wine and coolers, you know, for people to drink and enjoy. But so that's become my new signature. But I did at one time bake. And then people knew like, oh yeah, she's got cookies, let's go over there. And so, you know, the smell of cookies or walking into a house with a pretty, you know, you put out a nice plate with doilies and, you know, just your presentation is important. That says a lot about who you are as a person. And then Friday, post online again, prepare market statistics, print your flyer, and then door knock. Again, this says Friday. I'm already starting my door knocking as soon as I got my flyer. Monday or Tuesday is when I'm doing it. If my open house is on Sunday. What clients like to know, we talked about this community and neighborhood information, if it's, you know, pools in the area or, you know, relocation information, first time buyer specifics, mortgage information. You can collaborate with your lender. You know, I've had, and this is something I spoke about recently, like I've had times when my open house is so busy that I'm having conversations with people and other people are getting away because there's only one me. And what happens in that instance is that I've got to learn to maybe collaborate with a lender or another agent, you know, where you guys are collaborating together on an open house and saying, like, hey, whoever I communicate with is my lead source. Or you could take somebody who's a rookie and learning to be an agent, take them with you on an open house and teach them how it's done. Have mortgage information about first time home buyers, a lender that you collaborate with, because that will also help set you up for success. Building trust and rapport, we talked about that, providing value, you know, know that you're the neighborhood expert. That when you're telling them that 123 Main Street sold 2 months ago for over asking, that shows that you've done your homework and that you're dedicated to what's going on, and you want to, you know, present yourself as a knowledgeable, valuable agent. Capture information, qualify leads, building trust and rapport, greet everyone that comes in the door, engage in a conversation, be positive. I think your energy speaks volumes about who you are. I recently had somebody come into an open house. She was a single woman. And when she walked in, I had a conversation with her. She said, I have representation. And she was very short, cut me off, walked through the open house several times. I knew that she was interested. I said, well, have your agent contact me if you're interested. And So I gave her my card and, Monday morning, she called me and she said, well, I've let my agent go. I was just so impressed with the way that you did the open house, and the conversations that we had, that, I'm interested in talking to you about signing, and she was a $500,000 cash buyer, you know? So you never know what's gonna happen in the. You know, somebody might walk in and have representation, but they've got a cousin that's looking for representation and they want to find them an agent, so. Have a sign up sheet. So I have a sign up sheet where my sign up sheet will say, you know, some people do it like where they have their laptops open or an iPad open. I'm more a paper and pen person myself, I'm old school. But, you know, you get their information, and a lot of the times I will say like, you know, for the sake of the seller, it's important that they know who's coming to their home. It's only fair to them, so we ask for that information. And my sign up sheet will say name, phone number, you know, email, address. Are you looking to buy in the next, you know, say 3 to 6 months, you know, 6 to 12 months? And then I'll have, are you working with an agent? Typically, I'll say, who is that agent? Because sometimes they'll just say, yeah, I'm working with an agent. And you'll be surprised how many of them don't know what the agent's name is. You know, they'll be like question mark, and then you're like, oh, really horrible. Ask questions, you know, where they live, you know, what they like about the area they live in, why they're interested in this area, teaches you more about them, and what they're looking for. And then remember, you're there to get leads and appointments. That's the main goal, right? So. This is the feedback, but I guess it's at the end of the. So I guess some of, one of the most important things of once you've captured that information and connected with those people is your follow up. If you're not following up on a Monday morning or as soon as possible with people that were in through your home, you've wasted that entire week of hard work that you put in. So if you're not reaching out to that person to say, hey, thank you for coming to my open house. Like, we wanted to let you know, we went under contract that evening and had 7 offers. Or like, you know, make little notes once again about those people. Like, I'll always write on there, like on the back of my sheet, that person had, you know, a 2-year-old and her name was Casey. And I would be like, you know, I'd love to help you and Casey find a home in the future. I'm ready whenever you guys are ready to look for a home. If you're not following up, you've wasted all of that time, you know. And even if they have agents, you know, that can be a very sticky area because you don't want to encroach on somebody who has an agent. But, you know, you could send a message like, have your agent get in touch with me. I would love to see if there's a way that I could support, or you could reach out to the agent. You know, you could reach out to the agent the next morning and say, hey, I want you to know, like, John Smith, your client John Smith came through my open house and they seemed really interested, and I just want to know how I can help you and you can help me. We can find the right home, you know. I think those conversations are very important, and if we're not doing that, we're missing a great thing. Talks about PW cares. I don't know why this is in the middle of our open house, but I guess it's part of it. What are some ahas for you guys on open houses? What are some things that you feel like you've learned just talking through this and what I've mentioned? So anything new to you that you feel like, or anything you have questions about?
How many people are using CRM with your information? Because that was a good point on follow-up.
Yeah.
You know, having notes and everything, that's great on the day of it, but if you're using command to follow your leads, you want to structure, especially conversations.
Right.
You know, typically I want to talk about the ones where they say they have an agent, but they still give you their phone number.
Right,
Give you your email address and their physical address. They're telling you that, okay, I work with someone now, but it may change 6 months. from now.
right,
And even if they do close with that agent, that is not their client for life. And so you want to put in those checking in things, you know.
yeah,
That first thing is on, like I said, I would do it on Monday, not Sunday.
right,
Just, hey, thank you for coming. I hope you like this. Here's some more information. Because most cases, they don't walk out with the property disclosure, send an attachment on that. You know, and then the next day, hey, you know, would you like me to follow up with your agent? Because what you're doing is with open house, you're actually interviewing for a job, whether it's nosy neighbor next door or that buyer that may not have the warm fuzzies with the agent, because the ones that truly are bonded with their agent, when I hand them the sign-in sheet, they put their name, they put an X on all the information, and then they might say where they found out about the open house. But if they give you that, be gentle, don't cross signs, but you want to continue that engagement. And particularly, and I'll shut up after this, is when you said write things about them, because I had an open house on Sunday where mom and daughter came in. Mom was in control. She took the signing sheet and assessment from the daughter, handed back to me. And I always ask them, would you like me to be toured with a sub-guide? And so they went through on their own, and as they're coming out, I said, hey, I know you didn't fill out this assessment. You know, but let me ask you, what was the things you love about the house?
Mhm.
She named 3 things. I'm like, oh, wow, that's really
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And then I said, and what I do is I use a lot of QR codes. And so I said, this particular house had as part of, this is in Dayton, as a down payment assistance program. Here is a code. You can go there, it goes to Greater Dayton Homeowner Center, you can get that information. Secondly, Ashley surveyed, she filled out everything on the guest list for you. You know, and because again, you don't want them rushing in like your salesperson.
right,
You know, because they got their guard up. And let them roam if you choose, you know, I mean, for me, why they're doing that, because there's some things I agree with you. And I'm working, you know, they don't want a guy to court. I'm sitting there with my scripts. I'm sitting there with my book open. As soon as they come up or back in, I get up and start asking me probing questions. And I found out a lot about them.
right,
And I sent them information yesterday. I'm going to send the information again. And I also yesterday said, hey, if you're free for a moment on Friday, I love to talk strategy.
right,
You know, I'm not the expert. I'm just
right,
saying there's a lot of ideas out there for open houses. You have to do what's best for you, but you definitely have to have a plan, like Celeste said.
I think you have to be very, very careful, and I can't stress this enough, that if somebody does say they have representation, and they do have an agent, that you're not reaching out to them. Because you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. So I tend to kind of shy away from that. I don't push that as much, because there are very strict rules and guidelines in MLS regarding that. And just think about it. If you have a buyer, and some agents will call you and say, hey, my buyer is coming to your open house, and then I have the agent's contact information. The only way that I would reach out in that instance, I would reach out directly to the agent. I would not reach out to the buyer.
That's the same with,
Because I think that that's
active
very
listing.
dangerous. You can get
If
yourself-
if it goes expire, if the active seller of an active listing calls you. You are allowed to have a conversation with them. You let them know, hey, you got your other agent. That's no different than on that signing sheet. Even if she tells me she has an agent, she doesn't write down the agent name, but she gives me everything else. It's all, it's not me trying to sell another agent. It's me doing the same work for any other customers.
How do you feel about that, Amy?
My questions are different.
Yeah.
Rather than asking people if they're working with an agent, I'll ask other questions to try to feel out if they are actually working with another
Yeah.
agent. So I'll ask them if they've written any offers and,
Yeah.
you know, not. like,
Have you been looking, how long have you been looking for a
Yeah,
house?
like, oh,
Yeah.
have you guys
Seen
written
any-
any offers? Have you seen anything you've written any
Yeah.
offers on? You know, 'cause the market is like tight a little bit right now, so. And then I'll ask them like, oh, have you seen any other homes? Like, what other homes have you guys looked at that? And get feedback on those homes, like, oh, what'd you like about it? Because then I can really.
Gauge
those-
what they're involved
Those
in,
questions
yeah.
tell me more than like, are you
Right.
working with an agent? And I don't like that question because it feels salesy to me.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
I try to probe them in other ways to
Right,
really determine if I,
right,
even though they may say yes. That they may be lying.
right.
You know what I mean?
And that does happen. I feel like that does happen because I feel like that's a way for them to cut you off, right? From a salesy standpoint, like they could say, I'm working with another agent. A lot of times you'll be like, oh, who is it? You know, they don't even know the agent's name. So sometimes they'll use that. I just feel like if they're very specific and to your speaking, like you could gauge if they've been looking at houses or they've had offers, that gives you a better gauge of like, are they really looking?
Right, 'cause they may be like, oh, yeah, we looked at. You know, the house down the street, it was too small. Whatever,
Right,
if they say
right.
something like that,
Right.
then I at least know they
Right,
have signed something,
Right.
maybe just for the house,
Right.
you know, whatever.
Right.
like
Yeah.
But I do have a question, where are these scripts that he talked about? This is what I don't understand, I can't like find
Well,
anything.
you can find a lot of
They-
scripts.
they-
First thing, if you're not on Jason April,
Yeah.
YouTube channel,
Okay,
you want to subscribe.
Yeah.
Because
so many,
after each session, they'll have it uploaded, the transcript, as well as supporting documents.
okay,
As well as you can go on to NAR. They have a lot of material on there. You know, I typically download Brian Eisenhower audiobook on farming on NEJET. That's a lie.
mhm,
You know, and listen to that, take notes. You can also pay for that.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll set up is AI. You
Oh,
can sit there
oh,
and just, and if you're familiar with the print that, what is her, Rachel Lee Adams
yes,
was
she's
talking
amazing,
about.
yes, that's a great
He
one.
says you use the print method where you put in the content, you ask AI to play a certain role. And you ask it if it's unsure what you want to interview, one question at a time, and then you give them the text.
Yeah.
I use that a lot with a lot of my scripting.
I just, I feel like they exist somewhere
They
in
do.
the Keller Williams world. but I
They do,
Don't.
they're like the MREA, I believe there's scripts in the back of the MREA, isn't there?
There are some
Yeah.
bold scripts
Yeah.
out there.
And there's bold, the bold script, I mean, there's scripts available everywhere with Miller. Yeah,
I will say though, I'm a sales. Long time sales experience that I have, if somebody tells me. They're working with another agent or they have another person or whatever. My response is then to engage them. Oh, tell me about the houses you've
Yeah.
seen, but I will not contact them.
Yeah, no, you can't let all you.
you
Yeah,
can't
you can't by
contact,
law, but.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care if they're lying to me and they've just gone to open houses. I'm like, and next.
Yeah.
The world is abundant. And my people come
Right.
and I don't want to start a relationship with a wall.
and you don't wanna, You don't wanna make-
What do you mean by wall?
They told you no.
If
That's their way of
if they
saying,
tell you no, then yes, that's definitely, if they tell you nothing, if they say, hey, I got an agent.
Yeah.
And they
That's
still
their no.
in the premises, if you got an agent, why are you giving me your personal phone number, your email address and your home? And not putting down at least the brokerage, because I get that a lot, they don't know, but they know it's 6 o'clock, they know it's EXP.
well, because people are non-confrontational. people do not like confrontation at all. They do not like to tell people no in an N-O word. So they use oh yes, I'm looking at it. It's kind of like when you walk into a store and people say, oh, do you need any help? No, just looking. That is their, just looking. And so I don't, that's
Yeah.
their wall. Now, I may engage them, oh my gosh, that's great. I love agents. What have you seen? All that kind of stuff. But I don't follow. Like, I do not call them because they've given me their no, and I'm too busy and too experienced in sales to understand that no, I mean, that no means no right, not right now, and all that sales bullshit. It's
Think
it's a
about,
wall that they've said, that's their border, that's their boundary. And they can take my takeaway, and if they felt like, oh my god, she was amazing, they'll contact her. But I'm not hunting down somebody that,
think about having a potential buyer that you've had a conversation with.
Yeah.
You haven't signed anything. And they're, maybe you have an appointment to sign something in a day or two, and between that time, they've gone to an open house. Had a conversation with another agent.
Yeah.
They are by, like, it's not written, but you're already in communication with that client, it's a potential client for you.
Right.
And that open house agent then zooms in and calls and locks them down, you're not gonna be happy. So I feel like there's a kind of respect that we need to have for other agents and a level of. Like you say, I don't wanna, like, if it's a no, it's a no. And I don't wanna earn your business being a vulture. I wanna earn your business on my trust and on, not that I'm saying, we're being vultures, I'm just saying, like, I wanna earn your business because you trust me. You see me as the agent of value, that I have something that I can offer you, and that there's a service I can give you. So I think there's a very
Yeah.
a hard line,
and customers understand the ethics.
right?
Even if they don't know the fine print, they understand the ethics of the situation, particularly if they're grown adults. Right. Not baby adults, if they're grown adults, they understand the ethics of the situation, and that I would never want to start a relationship where they question my ethics.
So just recapping, we went through, an open house doesn't have to cost you anything. It's a one time. I've seen a lot of open house signs, to open houses that are. To me, like little pointer boards, and to each his own. Mine is like this, mine's 18 by 24 in size, and it says in big black letters, open house, with a big red arrow. Keller Williams, my name, my phone number. I mean, I wanted to be seen, that can be some, I mean, I guys, I can give you the source, but I think I got mine through. I got cause I put up between 15 and 20 boards for every open house, pointer boards. I think I bought mine through a really strange company. You can design your own. It's called 24-hour wristbands. And I believe I got 10 for like $70, which I thought was very inexpensive with the pics. A little.
And so are they big? You're a big board.
Mine are like 18, I should have brought an example, they're like 18 by 24. And then they also supply the H stakes. A little tip that I have is like, have a jug of water in your car. So that when you're going to knock those stakes in, the ground is sometimes hard, you wanna throw water in there and then use your mallet or your hammer to get the stakes in. Push your boards all the way down. Balloons are fantastic because they draw attention. Something I've recently discovered is, and I use these, like if you go to the Dollar Tree, they have when you gift wrap, there's those shiny
Cellophane.
red, what's the
Streamers.
like the streamer stuff that you put on gifts.
Oh, yeah.
So I've put those on a stick because those last longer than a balloon pops. So I put those on a stick, those are attached to my signs and the sun hits them and they're bright, glittery. That's another way to draw attention. The flag, I use a flag, there's a flag, you can get an open house flag on Amazon for $30. And it's like it's a stake in the ground, it goes, like a big oval like that. There's tons of different designs to choose from. Those go up. I usually don't do that day of, I do that the day or two before. And make sure that there's clear signs of what time it is, so people are not confused, like, oh, there's an open house right now. It says on there 2 to 4 Sunday, so that they can see that. But, those are initial investments that you make that you don't have to continue to make. Doesn't cost you, what's expensive is your time and your energy that you put into that. But you want to be sure that with that time and energy that you're reaping rewards. And, I've spoken to people who've done open houses and new people and I was like, did you door knock? And they're like, no, but I don't mind sitting there and just doing, I get some work done. What's the point of having an open house? Like you're holding the open house for the benefit of leads for you. So, to me, if I'm doing one, I'm all in and I put the work in and it always pays off. I've never had an open house where I haven't had a lead come in, not once. So.
What is the average attendance for open houses in this area?
I think, there's a lot of factors that play a part in that, whether, but I would say like my open houses, I average between 10 and 17 people that enter.
So
my
you're
open
above
houses.
average, because that average open house is about 4
Yeah.
visitors. And if you're holding it for 2 hours.
Yeah.
How many, either they come in at the front or they come in at the area, what are they supposed to be doing?
What do you, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Usually they come in clusters.
Yeah, they do.
And so either at the beginning when you open it or right before. And so what are you suggesting they should do with their time in between the average guests?
Oh, a person holding the open house.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
but-
actual agent, the
Yeah,
actual
yeah,
agent.
Person
Oh,
host.
well, I always have my laptop there, and I use that opportunity to learn either more about the area, the neighborhood, or, catch up on if there's time frame that people are not coming in. I mean, I have a hotspot on my phone, so I have internet access if it's not there.
I think you can do things like shoot reels and
Yeah.
emails.
You
You
can,
can send direct messages, like I like to send cards, so I can sit and like write my little handwritten cards for the lead. But I think to your point, plus it's like every open house I go into it, like, okay, if there's nobody shows up, how am I gonna still make this time
Yeah.
productive?
how am I gonna make the most of it? I get what you're saying, yeah. Reels are important, I do that before and I will do it during. And when you post them, you'll see like, you get to see your insights on your page and you can see how many people are seeing that, And you could, even in your reel, let's say you've got you're not seeing a whole lot of people come in, but you perhaps have. So like on a Friday, when I have a listing, my own personal listings, I'll do a Friday night cheese and wine. But if I see I don't have huge traffic, then I'll say, hey, like, our open house, we're here till 8 o'clock tonight, but we have another one on Sunday morning from whatever time. So that you're advertising, future opportunities or next week or, and again, I also just, then I'll collate, information that I have ready for the listing agent or, to tell them like, hey, I'm wrapping this up, it's 3 p.m. and I have the information ready to go in a text, because I've now got to go back and pick up boards, Again, do that the same day as your open house, don't leave them in the yards, and once your open house is over, go get them, go pick them up, load them up, and get them.
On a logistics point of view, how many open houses can you do on one day? With just going by your strategy?
Probably like
I've never
3,
done more
feel
than
like-
one.
I feel like 3.
Do agree.
2 hours.
You would need the space, yeah, of time and, you know,
Energy of a 25-year-old.
and you would. And yeah, you have a 25-year-old sister,
Yeah. I
you
used
know,
I get a Dayton. My Dayton listing, and I rush back down here to do my Chevy listing before I had 15 minutes to put my buyer costs in. And
wow,
I'm-
go this. I mean, I don't know how you do
Yeah,
it.
that's a big.
I don't know,
flex
I don't know
factor.
how I did, I planned it without looking at it, and I'm looking like, oh shoot. Not only do I have to go up to date, I had to go up to date early to
Right.
do door knocking. I'm
Right.
like, by the way, I have a listing at 6612 West Grove Drive, please find a buyer so I can stop doing it. They were wonderful people, it's a great house, and I just want to be done driving.
What part of Dayton?
Trotwood.
Okay. Oh, that's up there.
45426.
That's North Dayton. That's up
Yeah,
there.
yeah, no, West Gate,
Okay, yeah,
yes.
this part.
That's the next one. How has your thinking changed and what ideas or mindsets are new to you from what we talked about today?
Alright. Not to talk again, but I think the first thing is being proactive and starting your open house plan. No later than Monday morning, making sure you're picking the right open house, particularly if you're door knocking. Because one of the things is, you don't want to do a street where each house is greater than 3/4 of an acre, unless you need to work out like I did.
Well, that's how I see it. I double it over as like, okay, I'm getting my steps in, you know, it's a great win-win.
And then, how do you feel about door hangers?
Well, you're not necessarily gonna get everybody to open a door.
Mhm.
So, you can combine that your flyer doesn't have to be, it could be a door hanger, you know? But, I'll say something like, hey, have a punchy line, use something like, did you know this house is, new house for sale in your neighborhood, going for blah, 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 how many bedroom, how does this compare to yours, kind of thing, have them thinking, I haven't created door hangers when I door knock, but if there's a flyer, I will just kind of like, you can't put it in the mailbox, but you can like wedge it under the door.
Just not, I apologize, do not put it in the mailbox.
Yeah.
That is illegal to
Yeah.
do.
Yes, you cannot put it in the mailbox, but you can wedge it in the door. If you put it on a nice piece of cardstock or put it under the mat, like that's my favorite place. If there's a doormat, I'll just put it under the corner. If it's bright and chirpy, they'll see it, that's just. And I've had people call me just on a flyer that they found on the front doorstep, So I don't think you're gonna necessarily get, when you've got 100 houses that you're door knocking, that you're gonna get all 100 answering, But you will have conversations with those people who you may never see in your open house, but they'll become part of your, your sphere. And they will be people that will be looking to buy or sell in the future, so. I just always think that there's such a huge win-win with open houses. When I do my Friday night. Should have brought examples, but when I do my Friday night open house, I will do I do an exclusive, I call it a neighborhood exclusive invitation. And I just invite neighbors. Now, does that mean the public can't come? Of course not. But it makes the neighbors feel important, This is a neighborhood exclusive to a Cheese and Wine. Come hang out, talk about property. And I get such a huge response from that because I actually make it like a really classy cardstock invitation with a picture of the house. And, you are invited to a neighborhood exclusive open house from this time to this time. Come enjoy a charcuterie and a glass of wine. And people come, I've had fantastic results from that. In fact, I have more from that than I do from my Sunday open houses, but I do both. Yeah. What was meaningful for you guys today? What do you feel differently about what was meaningful for you guys today? It's great. Did you learn anything?
I did.
How do you think your actions will be different though? They said that he would plan Mondays, which is great.
I'm gonna do that. I never took the word.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna do.
You know, people,
Like I heard it for years, I know.
some people don't like it at all. I'm not a phone person and I know I shouldn't advertise that, but I'm a better one-on-one person. And I just create better rapport when I'm in your face and having a conversation with you. So I know it works for me, you know, I don't know.
Excuse to not. Not that I'm not gonna people say I'm a realtor. You are.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
It's a great excuse, you know, an open house, like I say, it's an excuse to be a nosy neighbor, but I'll use that line all the time. Come see what they've like, they've installed, you know, bamboo flooring, come check it out, it's beautiful. And then they're like, oh, well, you know, I was thinking about putting bamboo flooring in my living room, and it just leads from one conversation to another.
I would appreciate that as, just somebody in my neighborhood and I've seen houses pop up for sale. And, I've seen one open house. And the 20 years I've been in my neighborhood, I've only seen one open house sign on the corner. And nobody knocked on my door and told me,
Yeah.
and, you know, me being, more of a timid person, I'm like, what am I doing there? And it's all salesy and I get sucked in and I
Right.
do that, or what if I just look nosy? There's somebody who would have invited me,
Right,
knocked on my door and invited me, I'd be
Right.
like, oh, you know, this is what I can learn from going there. It's not that I am being nosy, it's like just seeing how this happens. I know what's gonna happen if I sell my house,
right,
you know,
Right.
and have an open house.
Right.
So, I mean, that helps me feel better learning about all of this. But also I know that I have neighbors that when somebody's going door to door in the neighborhood, calling each other.
Yeah. Don't open the door, there's somebody,
Is it
yeah.
going next door?
There's a neighborhood group that goes, oh, there's a person with a weird car. Well, yeah, that's when you leave it under the mat.
I have to say that I don't even answer the door, like I am 10 feet back and I'm like, no, thank you. Like through my door to the person. But, and I will say, when I first started, I said to you, I was like, I am never gonna door knock. However, I got my first listing in Morrow. And it's in an area in Morrow, I can't really door knock, it's like a football field between houses. But I've had so many calls off the sign to get and have buyer leads. And now I have 2 listings. One in Mason and one in Cherry Grove, and I cannot wait to door knock
Right.
those neighborhoods, cause they're like, you know, neighborhoods. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, that is like a shooting monkeys in a barrel of fire just to go to 25 houses.
Have a good, like, have a bright t-shirt on. I put like a red t-shirt on and I always have my name tag. And it says Keller Williams, it's got my name. I mean, if you guys know me, I have my name tag when I go to church. Because I want people to know who I am. And it always sparks a conversation. If I'm at the Dollar Tree, they're like, are you a realtor? Yes, I'm a realtor. What's the market doing? You know, door knocking can induce that. People ask about the market. The houses are sitting on the market even a bit longer. Like just a conversation, is where it starts, you know, and again, just being genuine and not trying to sell, you know, spectrum, you know. And again, you're right. People will say, oh, there's somebody knocking on the door. But now that I've become a door knocker, when somebody knocks on my door, I'm a little bit more compassionate because I know what the grind is. It's hard work.
Yeah.
It's not easy. You know, you have more compassion for these kids. Like a lot of times these
Yes,
Duke
yeah.
Energy guys,
Yeah.
you know, and I open for them because I'm like, you know, I know what's involved. Like it's the grind. And I have to find the name of it. There's a young kid that was a rookie with Keller Williams and he started out and that was his whole mantra was door knocking. He loved the whole door knocking concept. And I will say like where I was before at my previous brokerage, that was a big part of their mantra, you know. I like it. It's my personal go-to and I feel like I develop relationships and it makes you more confident even when you're out in the public and not knocking the door because you'll see a lady and help her carry her bags and she'll be like, you're a realtor, you know, and you have a conversation, so.
I had a roofer knock on my door last movie. I was like, I told my husband, I've got this.
Yeah.
So I went out there and talked, I let him say stuff,
Yeah.
and I told him, you know,
Yeah,
and he said, thank you for being nice.
Yeah.
"Oh
well, just think about it, yeah, I mean, the public is, I would say everybody should work one Christmas in retail. Just to appreciate what the public's like, because I think when you're in that industry and you realize like people are so mean, and don't take it personally. You know, if somebody's hard on you or they, you know, like there's plenty of fish in the sea, there's hundreds and thousands of other people out there that would be kind. I mean, I've had people invite me to their house and, you know, like all kinds of crazy stuff, so, yeah.
Don't take the sip
We need to
of.
have a talk with you.
Yeah, I don't go in, but I've had that many a time, you know, little old ladies, you know, you have little old ladies that just are craving conversation, you know. And I mean, they'll tell you their entire life story, you know, I enjoy that. So,
Thank you, Celeste.
you're welcome, thank you for attending, guys, I appreciate it.
Is it? Wait, you come through it.
I like this.
Well, I don't know how, but I did, I don't
And I
know.
hope you.
Let's stay the system, do that, don't call people, blah, blah, role play, make your notes, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I knew that I was on a time crunch because
It's the next 11, isn't it?
Kendall.
the one, I didn't never my fucking
I
meeting,
just
just
sit in.
Tuesday, every day.
I will let you.
So again.
Yeah.
Is that usually
And then usually there's somebody who comes in.
In Norwood.
Okay, Shannon, yeah, she was, I mean, I haven't. So, what did she say? I'm sure the lady is like,
I was a makeup artist for 30 years. Like,
Thanks for your input, Liz, I appreciate it.
You very well. No, hopefully I wasn't talking too much.
No, no,
But I just want to say thank you. You confirmed, I'm doing door knocking today and I'm here. Wherever you show,
Good.
where your name tag.
You're very confident.
Okay, started.
Now, the only thing I want to mention was,
I just had my license for a year.
Previously, I'm putting it in, I've said I'm putting it. So I say, I will give them immediate feedback through,
A little.
showing time and then I will send anyone that had agents for feedback, I will.
I do, I mean,
scan
I'm
it, when
real estate,
you
my,
email it, you know, so they.
I run the videos, he does the handyman.
You know, and I should say.
Scopes out.
You know,
Bring
persons.
I run the
that have
job,
an agent,
I
they
go with the
don't put in there.
contractors,
It all depends on the
Then I-
engagement level.
I
You know,
do
I,
it.
you know,
whoever
there's nothing wrong
was,
to say, hey, thank you
and
for.
sell
uh,
it. I do the contracts and all that, kind of stuff. So I love it.
Yeah, but
I just
you know,
was like,
I will
burned
put
out
it
on doing
into
makeup.
my CRM. Check in 6 months, see how that.
I was a makeup artist, I am a makeup artist.
And then
For
like
30
30
years.
years. You know, what happened is something that really.
But everyone always says.
And then just.
Um,
Look at that, that's what I'm saying,
and
is,
that's
because it's,
free,
you know,
but,
again, it's, you know, info generation.
it's just-
You know, you have to touch the.
You get
You get either
Yeah,
like,
like- Breathing in.
or say, hey, let's sit down.
Yeah, I can do makeup in the dark.
But again, I apologize. I'm here and I'm running my mouth.
Great, and you're Shannon.
So.
Zatlin. Shannon
Hi
Zatlin.
Shannon, I'm so
What is
sure.
your name?
We were at another meeting,
Yeah.
but, are you
Nice to
new
meet you, Kendall.
should we work or are you?
No,
you're
I just. Didn't have April.
Oh,
So I just talked in, I get my license.
Okay.
Exam.
Don't worry, we all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happens. Well, come hang out with us in the office.
Yeah.
If you have the time, I don't know what you do during the day, are you gonna find a job right now?
I left my job for 4 years at the end of December.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was like, if I don't quit.
Yeah.
Then I will never be, I
Right.
to do something else.
Exactly.
In my career. I didn't keep going to do this because I jumped it years ago.
Yeah,
That fell apart. I just didn't like it. Oh, it's gonna be USP. And there was just not that connection.
Yes.
well, come hang out, we're here most days,
Yeah,
Wendell, myself, I find
being in the office is
Right.
helpful.
being in the office, I mean, sometimes we can get caught up in the chatter and we don't get as much done.
It's true, I went home last night.
But it does help to be around the noise. I think it helps encourage us and we don't feel so distanced from one another. And
We also learned,
we
like.
learn from each other,
Yeah.
like just listening to a conversation with somebody else having a conversation, goes, oh, I didn't know that. Is that something you, yeah, this is what you need to do. And you learn things organically. It helps you stay in the loop.
Yes.
And if you have questions, you don't necessarily have to call the broker. There's somebody here that might be
Yeah.
almost very safe.
Are you on a team? Are you joining a team? Or are you?
No, it'll be the division. I think it's
We're individual.
Yeah,
Yeah, are you on a team now?
No, never so.
Yeah.
So first is what Jabari would.
Right.
Like,
So that's
every
what
time I
you-
see something.
Where did you say you got your signs?
I went to 24 hours.
Before our
Wristband.
wristbands.
24-hour wristbands, they're out of Texas. And you can create your design in Canva and just upload it to them. And they'll do it for you. I have mine are double-sided.
Yeah.
So on both sides, it has, just make sure, with my first batch, the arrow was, the arrow was pointing left on one and right on the other, so they had to redo them. But just make sure you make a note of that. But they did do a great job and their pricing to me was the best
That's
anywhere.
I've heard of.
Yeah.
It's the white corrugated board, so it doesn't die.
Rogers,
Oh,
I have
right.
that and they're small, and they,
Yeah, mine are too.
mine are just whatever the smaller ones are. And they were, I think you got 4 for like $8 or $16. It was kind of nominal, but they're small.
I'd like to find the smaller, I don't like the stakes that they use. I
The
don't
big,
like them
the top
floppy.
that they floppy,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'd rather have those smaller,
Yeah.
though. I did tell him this time he's doing.
I would like
the
it-
shorter stakes.
I like them up. I like them higher up because I feel like they're more car driving level. But I don't like, like you said, in the wind blows, they're like this, you know, and you.
Yeah.
But if you knock them in all the way, have your little watering can.
Yeah, I guess you gotta get them out,
It works, it works.
but yeah, well, welcome, just come to the office.
Thank you guys, I'm glad you
Yeah,
guys.
so. Like.
I see you in
Yeah,
here.
thanks, Les.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting to hear about the little things that you do.
Yeah.
That make a difference, so.
Like I did start with the XP. End of the
I just think,
end of May,
I've had,
so she,
You know,
like, May first,
I didn't even
Started
grow up in
PXP.
Cincinnati, I've been.
And it wasn't-
7 years, so.
uh.
I often get envious.
You
what
didn't
my
have to be
children
nice.
do. School,
Oh,
they know all
money
the school
schools.
buddies, they know all
Right,
the, you know.
But is it because?
So for me,
Yeah.
I don't here have to start scratch.
You do.
You know,
Yeah.
so here,
When
and
when you.
I realize that
numbers,
it's not very
Six
successful
are-
and how I look
are
for.
really good. However,
Really.
you don't,
I always,
PXP is like,
I love the.
I mean,
idea of
there are
serving it to that-
teams that have individual offices.
It's the city sounds like.
See, I don't know, you have to, yeah, they have to have a real place to go.
But you have to drop very, very, very wise. What I do, like, I have a
Certainly not.
huge tub like this that I
Some
sold
of
with
the
ice.
teams-
I don't know, maybe push
How do I say?
serving alcohol. out of
I
somebody else's house.
do very unapostle.
Those rules,
You're
yeah.
where you roll bullshit.
Yeah, I don't think I'm allowed to.
I thought-
You don't need
That's-
me, and you gatekeep, that.
Well,
Have any,
You know, if I get wrapped on
So
the
you-
knuckles, then I'll listen, but I'm not.
So I laugh.
It's not broken, but.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Because it's-
unfortunately, there is that,
Because it's when I do like,
belief of like, you do well, and I might not. That's old school realtor belief.
oh, you're
Well,
learning.
thank you.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you.
But
So that's
So
what
they
they
don't-
do.
they don't realize-
I'll do like a little charcuterie with
they
my nose, show it.
they actually.
Yeah.
So you can choose
I go through that trouble, but it works.
That was the
Yeah.
problem, and there was no training or mentorship, I mean, not really, it's all about.
Yeah,
I know people that.
I go. You know, when I get this one, it's that, Jesus, this.
What's her name?
I get a little white South African on some Bali, which I love.
Oh my God, that's like.
Yeah.
Big class.
Is there like $6.99?
Ultimately.
Oh my God, I don't.
Like,
I have the house.
You
Whether you need together, because, you know, I'm in team format and there's some benefits. And there's some, yeah, I was really interested, Kelsey said, it doesn't hurt. And no matter what, I was just 65. That was the most. And I was everything has to be.
I've done that.
It's a
Yeah.
they were the number one that came up with
Yeah.
these. And so they've been so much.
So that's what I got.
Oh, oh.
So like, if I go to charcuterie.
That is cute.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I and then I just throw that together, with like, and they can pick it up and walk with it. I'll put it in the house. Yeah, works out, that's great. And then I just told him I buy my wine for each, and Jones goes cheese. They don't drink them.
Anyway, I drink soy.
See, there's nothing.
And the training is there.
Oh, no, that's cute. That's what I do.
I have to like hire you to do those. That's fine. Look at it. It doesn't cost you to do anything for other.
Well, so you make that's your blended cheese and you pre-make those cups.
Yeah.
And then what happens if you run out of cups? Like what happens if you have?
How's it good
eight
opener?
people?
No, I do 25 standard for every open house, and what doesn't get it,
That later.
yeah, it gets eaten out, the wine never goes to waste,
Right.
just as you know.
Right.
But, but what doesn't get eaten just goes home, or goes in the trunk.
Yeah, because you know, I had the $5 tomorrow.
Yeah.
But they brought parents, sister, husband, older kid too, so like, it ended up being probably like 15 people house. But there was only like 5.
Yeah.
five.
That's why I have extra, because there's kids, so initially, I was very, I did 50, I was like, no, it's too much. So 25 to me is a really good number, so I feel like if there's a kid, and what I do too. So I used to do where I would put, like a little rosette of like, salami and stuff, but then it comes into like vegetarian and non-vegetarian, so now I just don't put any meat in there, it just helps.
Everyone have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
What's the night for tomorrow?
I'm sorry.
What's the event
Oh,
tomorrow?
let me see, I think it is, it's capturing leads with social media, and Nick Ruley's doing that tomorrow, 9:30.
Belligerent?
Right.
You can take one of my.
We'll take one. It's no thing.
I've only done the like some houses that do it.
It's got the,
Lauren, the little.
all right.
I also did.
All right, thank you.
But I advertised it in flyer, but. Tomorrow, I mean, I had the dad and bloody dad bring 4 kids, and all of a sudden the kids were like sliding down, and I immediately like mom voice like, hey, we're not gonna do that. And then I was like, oh shit, I should mom voice their children. But the dad did turn around, and was like, hey, what are you doing? Let's go outside, I took him out and sent him to the park, and then that same dad came back and argued with me about how high the price was of the house and how we couldn't believe it in front of like 3 other buyers that were in there. And I was like, well, actually, you look tomorrow, you cannot get tomorrow from 325. So this house being new, a new kitchen and updates and this and that, it's actually very well priced according to the market data. And so that was a good way to answer him because the other buyers were listening. But I was like, I understand that you might not have the concept and data, but the data shows. And then I was like, ding. Yeah. I mean, he was like, I don't want to offend you. And I'm like, that's nice. And he got the message.
Yeah.
I
Some
feel-
of that scripting, maybe some of that stuff is.
I don't.
I don't.
I am more like, I think it's a good idea to get a basic, like
Yeah.
some things
To
to say,
say.
but yeah, you're gonna just say it.
Yeah.
You say it.
I say the best thing to do, and I still, like, I think sometimes I do lose track, but I feel like as you get more confident as an agent, you don't feel like you need to as much, but it, like she says, foundation.
Yeah.
And I keep telling myself, I'm gonna put them in my car and play them over and over, and sometimes they just stick in your head, you
Yeah.
know? Because,
Eric to use that,
yeah,
I have to do that, certain things, because I'm not like, if you don't know me. But I just had this issues.
well,
But I find all my-
yeah, I got it too. So
I
I,
find when
I,
do
my
that,
face
like,
will
I
tell
keep
me,
smiling
will
a
tell,
little bit.
pick me up.
I think I am.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm like, my face gives me grateful all the time. But I think, where Peter Chabris really good is that he has mastered script practice and objections to a lot of different areas in real estate. And his comebacks are not salesy. They come from a place of value and knowledge. And I think if we, and I'm including myself in that, if I could be more on board with that and proactive with that, I would be better at addressing things from a professional standpoint instead of from an emotional standpoint sometimes when you're talking to a client. Because you do get emotionally connected with them. You know about their whole lives and their whole story and their whole, and the longer you get to know them, the more you learn. And I think sometimes it's very hard not to get emotionally and getting objections. I really.
Well, I mean, it's hard to compare with Peter because he's been doing it 20 some odd years.
Yeah.
And has like probably done like a master's level of communication studies and self-development. But you do amazing. But I think you just, my philosophy has always been be who you are. Try to temper it a smidge. And your people
yeah.
will come.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing I learned.
Again, I have a very hard time being a
Person should look like that.
I just, it's like, I feel like Les has some of that, he does the salesperson tactics.
Yeah.
Which, there's nothing wrong with it, it's just not who I am as an agent, I am more like, you like me as a human being, and this is what I can do for you, but I'm not. And maybe that's something that I need to improve, maybe I need to learn. It's not my
husband's good.
Is he?
He's genuine, but
Yeah.
he's actually getting.
Yes.
It's not, but his job, but yeah, he could sell used toilet paper. To anybody in a very good, genuine, not
You don't even know it's
chasey
you,
way.
yeah.
Yeah, he's just without being salesman.
Yeah. See, I feel like when I try to sell, then I feel like I sound that way. Like I feel like I sound like a salesperson. Yeah, and I don't like that. I always say to my clients, like, I am not into, pushy sense. Like, I never have tried to put a person in a house because I think this is a really good house. Like, I will say, how this house compares to the other one, because this one's 10 years newer and it's got more updates, but I'm not like, I'm not holding a gun to your head, like, you better buy this house, you'd be stupid not to get,
Yeah. Never any kind of ultimatum. I mean, I'm like you, I am who I am and that's. And that has always served me well and most of my, I mean, in beauty, every customer I ever had. Eventually became my friend.
Yeah.
So, if somehow, that says a lot about you.
Thank God, because I can't say that about every one of my customers. I've lost customers.
They weren't right.
Yeah.
I think I've seen honestly, in beauty, I've probably lost like 2 customers. Because I just,
You have the right personality.
yeah, but, and that'll prove that it's either a lot of extra work for me mentally or it'll pay off. I mean, it paid off in beauty, but those pay off.
I don't know.
I just explained myself with like.
I'm gonna do it all.
And.
It's a success.
CEOs, but then I was with Arbonne for 12 years, which is second word.
Yeah.
You know, she was doing it.
I should have made examples, I didn't bring my
Oh,
examples,
but I was in HR for that.
Yeah.
But.
I got out, right, house class, but you know, she was.
And the AirPods. Are you sure? Did you get any friends?
And we with your friend.
Because the corporate was in,
From EXP?
No. But
No.
I'm not pre. Yes,
Rob.
they've changed.
He said he was leaving on his tent.
But I was with Arbonne for 12.
Boy, you
years,
left it
so
fresh.
Mine circle is huge.
Oh,
And
no.
all of our customers are Arbonne, so I need.
Yeah. Oh.
Some sort of.
Is he from?
You know, either a friend I
He's
talked to
from here.
once a year or a friend that I saw like all the time, that's his guys that are.
Yeah.
You know, outside of our period, so.
Hard from the heart, like to keep it, you know, we all are.
Yeah, you know, just because I was.
What we wanna do is best for us.
Would you like?
Oh, is he?
Yeah. Oh, he's the one that met with Kelly, right?
Or time.
No.
Oh,
Great, fabulous. Happy.
Yeah, they start to sign up, he's giving all the things.
If you don't buy that, you don't do that. You buy this. Those are better.
Oh, these are.
Like, I-
Oh, it's just for the. Yeah, I
It was there.
earlier and I.
Yeah, you have.
I mean, the 12 years in our months, definitely. Good, how are you? Definitely, yeah. You don't have to get out, it's good for me.
You stay? Don't think.
12 to 11 to 12, and then we get free lunch. If you don't have.
That was so salesy.
It doesn't matter.
Free lunch.
Even,
You're not-
even during the licensing.
How are you?
Even during the
Like, how's the,
anything.
commercial? I feel like I've been like in a little.
Yeah.
Wheelchair.
Always try to.
It's all right, I just.
It's worth pursuing or.